So about a month ago, the Malta expansion DLC came to Jurassic World Evolution 2, bringing a litany of content based on the famous scene from Jurassic World Dominion. Does it live up to the hype? Is it worth the $20 price tag? Okay, before I dive deeper into this review, I should offer some preliminary information. First, although I'll try to avoid spoilers for this, previous DLCs, and the movie that it's based on, I can't make any guarantees. Second, the reason it took me so long to review this is because I wanted the 5-star R3 islands, which didn't end up happening. Also, it took me a while before I could sit down and actually buy and play the game. Third, if you have no idea what Jurassic World Evolution is, then I feel like you might have some difficulty following this review. With that out the way, let's move on to the review. With the Malta expansion, players can now build parks across 3 new islands, even though only one is technically in Malta. With a new biome, building set, dinosaurs, and a black market feature, players can involve themselves in a new campaign that focuses on characters and locations featured in Jurassic World Dominion. And just like Dominion, people seem to be split on whether they like it. I think most of the split feelings come from the diverse fan base of the game. You have a lot of challenge mode gurus, sandbox only players, trophy and achievement hunters, speedrunners, and just casual players. Regardless, you can tell Frontier, the developer, is attempting to push out a lot of new content and make this DLC offer a lot to the players. However, as we delve deeper in this review, you'll see my thoughts on a lot of these concepts. Personally, I don't hate this DLC, but I feel like it could have been fleshed out at every corner. The dinosaurs, the story, the new building set, and much more. For reference during this review, when I say movie, I'm referring to Jurassic World Dominion, and when I say campaign, I'm referring to the one within the DLC, not the base game or Biome DLC. Since we'll be covering every concept, let's start with the main star of the show, the dinosaurs. So the Malta DLC offers 4 new prehistoric creatures to use in your parks: the Atrociraptor, the Lystrosaurus, the Muros Interpretus, and the Oviraptor. Again, it should be said that I don't hate these creatures, but for every positive, it seems there's a downside. I'll start with the Atrociraptor. First, I love the skins on this animal, and that also goes for the other dinosaurs in the DLC. Of course, the Atrociraptor has skins based on the raptors from Dominion. They all have decent animations, but outside the campaign, I can't see myself using them in any map. To me, they're essentially bulkier velociraptors. The Lystrosaurus is probably my favorite of the pack due to this unique and being awesome. I mean, this is synapsid, its animations are cool, and it brings variety to the roster. I also like how it hates Oviraptor, alluding to the gruesome deleted scene in the movie where the 2 species fight in the underground cage match. However, this leads to one of the cons of the creature, the lack of animations or behaviors. Don't get me wrong, the Lystrosaurus and the other creatures in the DLC look and sound amazing, and have great social animations. However, there's no dual animation between Lystrosaurus and Oviraptor. In fact, I highly recommend looking at the deleted scene I'm referring to because it's pretty metal. I know because of the game's rating, Frontier can't replicate it, but it would have been fun to watch them try. Speaking of animations, the animal doesn't have any unique death animations with other dinosaurs in the game, like Chromallocephalae. I know that's macabre, but it is a con. Also, the creature is so small that most players will have a hard time seeing it. The same problem can be said about the animal's rival, the Oviraptor. However, it does bring some variety to the roster as it is an omnivore, requiring both a meat feeder and plants. Although the creature can be killed by other carnivores, I would love to see it fight with Lystrosaurus. Just a little fanboy quest. But again, I don't really see myself using the Oviraptor in a lot of my parks. The last dinosaur is the Muros, and it has the same problem as the previous 2 animals. It's so small that you can barely see it, which is a shame because, as previously mentioned, it looks awesome. And again, for some reason, most other dinosaurs won't kill it, which is weird because you'd think it would be an easy meal. But despite all my criticisms, it's actually my second favorite dinosaur from the DLC. Now, the DLC also offers a few skins and model redesigns for already existing dinosaurs, skins that are based off the movie. These dinosaurs are the Carnotaurus, Allosaurus, Iguanodon, and the Morphodon. The Carnotaurus one is awesome, that pretty much sums it up right there. I also like the Allosaurus one, despite it creating a split in the fanbase. Although I won't really use it as much, as I love Frontier's design, I just think it's cool that this alternate model exists. A lot of people seem to hate it being in the game, and I can understand them hating the design itself, but Frontier isn't the one who made it. They're just including it because it was in the movie. If you don't like it, you can use the other model. I have the same thoughts for the Iguanodon redesign. It looks cool, but again, I love Frontier's version. And oddly enough, I don't remember encountering it during the campaign, which in the past, most Evolution DLCs usually introduce you to all new gameplay mechanics and species you can use. Not really a complaint, just an observation. The Dimorphodon redesign is awesome, although way smaller than the base model, but that isn't an issue for me. I really love the Pycnor fibers on the back. I remember when JW2 was announced, I was one of the few people who were kind of peeved that the model didn't have them as the first movie did, but I grew to love the in-game version regardless. Not much to say, but it's awesome. So that's all of the new dinosaur content this DLC offers. I think the biggest criticism I and others have is that there doesn't seem to be a must-buy species from the DLC, like other ones. Upon buying and observing these species, I think maybe a behavior overhaul update, similar to what other species have received, might make them stand out more. But what good are the dinosaurs without some narrative for you to create and care for them? Let's move on to the campaign and story. So as I already said, the new DLC throws us into a new narrative on these 3 islands with some familiar faces to help guide us along the way. I'll try to avoid spoilers for the story as it is kind of somewhat new at the time of writing this, but overall I enjoyed the campaign. It honestly brought back nostalgia from JV1 hopping from island to island, but I have a lot of criticisms about it. First, when you really get down to it, the story isn't really that complicated or in depth. It essentially boils down to Cabot Finch wanting to make money, which has happened in some of the past DLCs in their franchise. This should have been called the Cabot Finch Mediterranean DLC, as it essentially becomes like a challenge mode, which we'll cover in a second. But I love Cabot Finch as a character, a lot of people do, and I really love listening to these interactions between the characters, including some characters from the movie with their original actor voicing them, and others that Frontier created. I won't spoil a certain character that appears halfway, because it honestly shocked me, and I was genuinely thrilled about listening to him and Cabot interact. There's a few characters that Frontier does justice to. Spoilers, but Sonya, the black market woman from the movie, is written a lot better, and she's actually in the DLC a considerable amount of time. However, there are a few characters from the movie I'm surprised didn't make it in, like the poacher dude, but I mean that's no biggie. Second, which leads into the first bullet point, the black market aspect from a gameplay and narrative standpoint doesn't really affect the campaign. To summarize it, you have 2 divisions, the authorities and the underground. You do transactions with them to gain trust, so you can buy more dinosaurs. That's it. There's no advantage or disadvantage for siding with one, or ignoring one, or trying to satisfy both. I really thought it was going to be like that, like the first game, where if you ignore one side, then you risk being sabotaged. Or take it a step further, have poachers and government agents attempt to collect your dinosaurs, like in the Dominion Chaos Theory. I remember that gameplay aspect surprised me so much, and I thought I was going to see it here. I know this isn't Age of Empires or anything, but imagine having to place defenses so the government doesn't take your dinosaurs. I do think there should have been more consequences to the player's transactions. I never thought I would say these 2 games in the same sentence, but Godzilla Unleashed and Mafia 3 had systems like this where you can side with a certain alliance or burn bridges with another, and it gave you advantages and disadvantages, affected how you played the campaign, and even affected what ending you received in the game. And I thought we were going to have something like that here. I think one of the islands should have been the Department of Fish and Wildlife base, investigating the black market, and then on the second island, you get tossed into the underground and play around with the new building set. Third, the ending of the campaign. So when I was playing, I thought I was flying by the campaign because the base game campaign is painfully short. However, I was shocked when I found out I spent a decent amount of time on it. So the duration of the campaign isn't the problem, it's the ending. I remember the Byerson DLC in the main campaign had this problem too, where it seemed to just abruptly end. At least in both of those you get an ending cinematic, but here's just some dialogue and bang, the end. I will say there's kinda an epilogue where you get 5 stars on all 3 islands, which I haven't done yet, so I don't know if there's something else other than unlocking the trophy. I remember the JW1 DLC campaigns were also hyped up, but felt monumental. Like those were campaigns that took a lot of time and felt like an accomplishment when you completed them. It probably helped that the DLCs rewarded you to content for use in other game modes. Here, this just feels like a very long scenario in Zoo Tycoon or something, not some monumental campaign, if you know what I mean. Heck, the final mission and epilogue of the campaign is essentially challenge mode, which kinda peeved me. I have nothing against challenge mode, but I felt like it was a cop-out. I don't think it's difficult, I just think it's tedious, which is why I haven't 5-starred all 3 islands yet. Also, is it me, or is the star rating different in this? I just finished the Southwest USA map before I played the Malta campaign, and I don't know if the guest needs are different or the appeal system is. I don't know, I'm not really a die-hard challenge mode player, so maybe it's my own incompetence. So the campaign is a mixed bag. Yes, I love the characters and their interactions and the black market, but I feel like more could have been done. So for some, the next section would be the crux of the DLC, the new buildings and locations. So, for a lot of sandbox and casual players, I believe this would be the deciding factor in whether you buy the DLC. And honestly, it's my favorite part of the expansion. Let's start with a new biome, Mediterranean. At first, I wasn't a big fan of it. It seemed like an offshoot of the already existing desert biome, as it even uses some of the assets from that biome. But after playing around in sandbox with it, it grew on me. It's not my favorite biome, but as a savanna or scrub biome, it works pretty well. Maybe time will tell if we ever get some new assets for it in another update down the line. So let's go to the 3 islands that house this new biome: San Albertus, San Marie, and a Greek name that I won't butcher. So when reviewing these islands, I saw Triclaw Games review of the DLC, and he echoes most of my thoughts about the maps. San Albertus, the Malta map, is my favorite. It's spacious and provides a decent shape for park builders. I also didn't realize that there's a cityscape in the background until I captured the footage for this video. In the campaign, I'm not a fan of the pre-built structures, as I wish the game would just let us start from scratch. But that isn't really a fault of the island itself. San Marie, I am sorry, I am not a fan of the giant lagoon. Also, am I missing something? There's no natural or man-made barrier here, so from a realistic standpoint, can't the animals just swim away? Can't Frontier just plop a mountain or fence down? Regardless, the lagoon is way too massive unless you plan on doing a giant multi-species exhibit, and you can only build on these limited concrete barriers surrounding the lagoon. And maybe the game itself doesn't really like it, because in the campaign you're only here for a short amount of time. And finally, the Greek map is also decent, albeit smaller than San Albertus. Funny, it's actually the map I spent the least amount of time on. So essentially you have one great map, one bad map, and a pretty decent map. Now, for the biggest draw to the DLC, the new Malta building set. Shouldn't it be called the Black Market set, because 2 of the islands aren't really in Malta? Whatever. So when I saw the trailer and gameplay footage, I wasn't really hooked on it, but when I started playing, I realized how cool and awesome these buildings look. Cosmetically, it's one of my favorites. I'm just a fan of the decrepit, rustic look, and I've seen a lot of sandbox players building these ruined cities or castle parks. I think it's awesome. I feel like every era of building set adds something to the game. The Jurassic Park era has the classic buildings and tour rides. The Jurassic World set has its own iconic buildings and attractions. The DFW has a research facility look, and also has Biome has a unique high-tech look with some cool buildings and concepts, like the Hyperloop and the Research Outpost, as well as the invisible fences. And the Malta set also stands out, and also has the acquisition center for the black market. However, there are some problems with this that don't stem from the DLC. First, you'll be using these new buildings alongside the old guests, paths, amenities, and attractions. Really? I feel like we should have some new guests, a new Malta skin for these buildings, and especially new paths. It's just the same gray and orange we've had since the game's release. And don't worry, I had the same issue with the DFW and Biome sets. Second, some people have been complaining about the lack of the acquisition center in other building sets, and honestly, the only one I can see making sense having a counterpart are the DFW and Biome variations. I don't care if we get one, but people have been complaining about this, and I don't think it would make sense from a narrative or a gameplay standpoint in the Jurassic Park or Jurassic World eras. Third, I think there should be more decorations, buildings, and assets for the Malta building set. And I know that sounds petty, but I consider it a good complaint if you want more of something. I think down the line we'll get an update that gives the Malta set an overhaul, kind of like what happened with the DFW set. Also, wouldn't it have been cool to have a unique attraction module for the set, like a cage fight or something? Just a fun little thought. It's actually really funny I bought this DLC thinking the new maps, biome, and building set would be my least favorite aspect, but it ended up being my favorite. But does it redeem the DLC and make it worth the price tag? Well, before I answer that question, let me get to the technical aspects of the DLC, as in glitches and crashes. Apparently a lot of people are having problems with the game crashing, and I think there may have been a patch, but I hear the patch actually did more damage than actually fixing things, but I actually did not have any game-breaking glitches during mine. I heard stories about, obviously, as I already said, the game crashing and the game failing to recognize when you completed the mission. I had a lot of minor glitches though. For some reason, the Jeep would always spaz out in these maps. I thought it was kind of funny, but I'm not gonna lie, it kind of shocked me and it could have gotten annoying. I had an Atrociraptor randomly glitch through its fence and escape. I also found a Dinosaur Comfort to be kind of weird. I don't know if it was glitched or I don't know. I swear the Moros was so hard to please. Also on the sandbox maps, when I captured example footage for the video, I ran into a large amount of lag. None of these glitches really made the game unplayable or made me pull my hair, but I think they might infuriate some people. With that said, how do I rate this DLC, and do I think it's worthy at a $20 price tag? For the second question, I do not think it's worth the full price, maybe $15. But I would wait until it's on sale. I know I've been ripping this DLC apart, but I don't regret buying it, as there's a lot of good stuff in this expansion. For a rating, I'll probably give this DLC a 6.5, and I know every reviewer or gamer has their own scale, so here's mine, and you can gauge how I reviewed this game. In conclusion, the new maps, biome, and building set really carried this DLC for me, which I did not expect. The new Dinosaurs and story campaign are cool, but I feel like they could have been better. With that said, I do think there's something here for a diverse group of players. I think die-hard JW fans and sandbox players will love this DLC. But if you're unsure, I'll just wait until it's on sale, or maybe there's some complete collection deal out there. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. Was I too harsh? Did you love or hate the DLC? This is my first review on the channel, so maybe there's a future in other game reviews. But I just wanted to give my thoughts, as I didn't see a lot of reviews on the expansion. But with that said, I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you next time.